This 20th anniversary really makes me realize how many parts of the community that we've touched, and really how many people have been with us during those 20 years. Extraordinary people. The founding trustees who set a platform, one that we, to this day, operate on.
Rose Medical Center was formed because many of the Jewish doctors in the city were not allowed privileges at some of the hospitals in the city, so they created that. And diversity is very, very important to the Jewish religion. We wanted to continue that and just keep going and say this has to be something that the whole community will enjoy.
How are we going to take the assets from the hospital and turn them into assets for a foundation? And a foundation for what? A foundation for the community.
I think the values that Rose represents are obviously out of the Jewish tradition, but to me they're just the best human values. I mean, they're about caring about other people and acting when you see someone in need.
It's always that kind of reflection on how do our values carry us forward, how do our values of philanthropy and social justice and anti-discrimination apply to these new and emerging situations.
Much of the work that we do is really long-term. We're looking at long-term systemic changes. How can we leverage our dollars to create positive change?
When I come to the health committee or to the program officers or to Sheila at the Rose Community Foundation, we start from a mindset of not how am I going to solve that problem, but how are we going to solve that problem.
One of the incredible partnerships that I've seen since my time here was the relationship with our Early Childhood Center. And it's the idea that not only are we going to become better at what we're going to do, we become more transparent, we learn from best practices in the industry.
Rose does an incredible job of keeping up with the pulse of the community. And they do such a great job of really highlighting the areas where the community is facing issues and then convening different groups to figure out how to address it.
It's the Rose Community Foundation that stands out for being willing to spend the time to really think through challenges we're facing and to help bring people to the table that normally wouldn't have a voice.
The whole idea of Boomers Leading Change in Health is about people giving back, people who've had careers across the spectrum, people who have a variety of education experiences. And what they're saying is, we in this next phase of our lives really want to give back in some way. And if that's not philanthropy, I'm not sure what is.
So Rose Youth Foundation is definitely one of my defining experiences in my high school career, because it was the first time that I really felt like I had a role to play in affecting positive change in my community, and not just a role to play and not just a vision of what that would look like, but also the tools to make that change possible.
These are really innovative, first-in-the-nation approaches, and we're extraordinarily grateful for Rose's support, for their willingness to back innovation, because innovation entails risk, right? You're never sure if an innovative way of doing things is going to succeed or not. And I think that's really been the hallmark of Rose's philanthropy.
Our leaders, our staff, our wonderful volunteers are always looking to our community. What is cutting edge? How can we make a difference? How can we look at the world uniquely? How can we look at the issues of our community in a unique way?
Money or grants can get you to the table, but it takes really good people to do the work. And without the really good people, the money doesn't matter.
Money in itself will not accomplish the goals. It takes expertise, it takes foresight, it takes leadership, and money's obviously a part of it, but it can't be done without all the structures in place.
For us, we like to give on a project. We like things. that people normally wouldn't do because they wouldn't do them. So we'll buy a van for Freedom Service Dogs. We'll buy beds for Third Way Center. We like to do the things that sometimes other groups don't like to do because they're not very glamorous. But for us, we know it's so necessary that it makes us feel good that we can do it.
We were talking about how were we going to preserve Girl Scouts of Colorado into perpetuity, because we did not have an endowment. And I took to my board all of the things that I had learned at Rose, and basically we spent about 6 months looking at that, and everyone realized that this was just an incredible gift to give the girls of Colorado, that we could plan for their future.
I was one of 220 people who were trained through Rose Community Foundation to understand what endowment meant and how to go out and speak to people in the community and how to really get people to understand what an endowment means for an organization.
I would say we're about empowering people, and we're about empowering people to do the work that they need to do to get the job done that they are passionate about to make our communities better.
Part of being young is this idea that we can affect change, that we have a role in shaping the futures and shaping the future of Judaism itself and Jewish philanthropy. And I think we have this spirit of not being afraid of taking risks and not being afraid of seeing what's out there and pushing ourselves and pushing the limits.
My wish for the next 20 years is it looks a lot like the last 20, which is a very close and collaborative partnership that we have with Rose, and where it's very much of a dialogue around innovating, around challenging the status quo.
The one thing that I always keep in mind is the belief that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. And that is something that Rose demonstrates all the time with all its efforts.
When I think of the future of the Rose Community Foundation, I see bright lights for our community and for the foundation.